Today, we're going to build the Blender logo in Blender, so stay tuned. First of all, let's start with a new file, save it. I've gone ahead and imported in a reference photo that I pulled off of Wikipedia for the Blender logo. You can go get it for free. And what I've done is I've set it up on the orthographic front view. Now I'm going to go in and I'm creating a circle, and I'm basically just going to try to match it up to the logo. And here shortly, once I got it sized up, I'm going to rotate it on the y-axis so that the top two vertices are running in parallel with the part of the logo that shoots off to the left on the x-axis. It's going to make it easier for us to tie it in together, the geometry later. Now I'm going to come in and I'm going to create a second circle in here that is 16 vertices as well, because I want my verts to match up. And I am going to now scale this one down to the smaller circle, the little blue one in the middle of the logo. And I'm going to match it up in terms of rotation with the previous one so that we can eventually fill that in with the white part of the logo. Now I'm going to come back to the first circle, and I'm going to hit E and S to scale it out on the extrusion. And as you see, I'm just trying to eyeball it and line it up with the logo here, and I'm checking my normals. And so far that looks good. And now I want to figure out how I'm going to tie this geometry up to basically extrude the pieces off of those little, I guess they're fingers or arms or something in the logo. I used to know what that logo stood for, but it's been a while since I actually looked that up. So for the sake of this video, I'm going to call them fingers. So finger number 1, finger number 2, and finger number 3. So I'm just kind of prepping my circle here to make it easier for me to pull those pieces there off, while making sure that I don't disturb as much the geometry on the inner part of that circle, because when we run subdivision surface modifier on it, I still want it to look round like a circle. If you change those vertices that make up the inside of that circle too much, you can skew the shape and it won't come out looking right. So if you'll notice, I'm pretty careful about not screwing with that too much. So I'm just playing with vertices here to see if I can line stuff up. And I'll come up with a pretty decent solution, but I'm making sure that my edges are not too close together, because if they are, when we run sub D on this thing, you can get tessellation, which will cause artifacts or pinching in your geometry when you see it. The best thing to do when you're basically modeling out the topology of a shape is making sure that your faces or your edges for your faces are fairly evenly spread, so you have an even distribution across the entire topology. So now I grabbed the two vertices here, I extrude it, I pulled them up, and now I'm sizing one of these vertices to kind of match the other one. This is not an exact science. As long as you basically get the basic shape of this, you're good to go. I pull the second one up, extrude again, and now I'm scaling them. And because one side was scaling a little bit more aggressively than the other one, I just manually go in here. Because I'm in ortho mode, it's not gonna shift the perspective on where I move those vertices, and I'm just kind of moving the verts in place. They're gonna overshoot the shape of this just a little bit, because I am aware that subdivision will pull it inward a little bit when we apply it, and that's okay. Now I'm going down here to the second finger and just trying to figure out how I want to distribute these vertices here to get the best look. And given that I don't really want to extrude this one, I want to control it more, the solution I come up with is to grab this one vertices and extrude the single vertices like you see here. Then I'll go grab the second one, extrude it on X, which is what I should have been doing, but it looks like I just kind of eyeballed it, which it still ended up working. And now I'm going to select all those vertices and hit F to fill them. And now that's actually creating some geometry. And now I can grab those two vertices and extrude them along the x-axis and do the same thing and taper them down with the scale or sizing option S to make the second finger. And now I'm looking at topology because I have a big n-gon here. So the second finger, the main portion of the finger's got 5 edges. So now I come up with a solution to make an all quads based solution. That's going to keep everything nice and clean for us. So now on to the third finger. We're a good ways done with this model already. So basically I took the solution for the second finger and I'm going to repeat it for the third one because it gave me a lot of control on how I wanted to model it. So I'm going to grab that vertices, that single vertices, and I'm going to extrude it to basically mimic the outline or the shape of the finger. Then take the second one, do the same thing. I can then grab those 2 vertices that I extruded out along with the vertices at the base of it, select them all, hit F to fill them in. That now creates geometry. And now I'm going to grab the 2 vertices on the end of the finger. I'm going to extrude those 2 and then taper them with scale, just like we did for the second finger. And now we got to fix the n-gon. So I'm going to use the knife tool. I'm going to drag it up and commit. And if you count those, that's an all quad solution, which is what we always want. Or at least we typically want that. Okay, I'm saving my file. And keep in mind, all this is still flat. We just traced it. So now I need to do something similar to the inner circle. So I basically selected, made a big n-gon, hit fill, and now I'm insetting it a few times, and then I'm gonna delete the inside of that, select that edge, and I'm gonna do a grid fill. Okay, so now I've got all geometry. We've basically modeled the logo, but now we need to give it some depth. So I'll select everything, and then I'm going to extrude it on the y-axis. That gives it some depth. I'm going to throw in a couple loop cuts here on the outside, 3 to be exact. Now I want to put some loop cuts on the face. And by this time, I'm sitting here thinking, like, why am I duplicating all of this? So you're going to see what we're going to do here in a second, just to make our lives a little bit easier. I'm going to run some loop cuts around finger number 1. Finger number 2 is fairly evenly distributed, so I'm going to run to finger number 3, do the same thing, and just add 2 more loop cuts in the second part of finger number 2, just so you just don't have those long faces there. So now I'm looking at all of the edges. I'm checking my normals, and we have reverse normals on the outside here, so we have to deal with that, or else we're going to get weird artifacts and weird things happen to us if we try to bevel this thing. So the solution is to come back in here in face mode, in edit mode, and basically I want to select the circle because it's the easiest thing for me to select off the top, and then I'm going to do an invert selection, which will then select everything else but the inner circle, which is the thing we had the issue with, and then I'm going to recalculate the normals with Shift N. So now when we come back to object mode, we see everything is blue, so we're good to go. So now that we're good to go on our normals, I want to come in here and start tightening up these edges, so when we run sub D, we can restrict sub D's effect on some of these edges. So I'm just putting some nice little bevels here. I'm doing some support loops on the outside of the inner circle and on the inside of the logo circle, finger circle piece, or whatever you want to call that thing. So I noticed on a lot of the logos that inside has some geometry in it and it's filled in with white. I've seen versions of the logo where there's nothing there, but I want to go ahead and just to show you guys how to model this, I want to do this this white fill piece. So I'm selecting edges that we created from our support loops on both the inner circle and the outer circle, and I'm going to hit Control E and bridge edge loops. And then I run another couple of support edge loops around the side, and now I'm going back to my beveling of edges so we can, like I said, control the shape once sub D is applied. I'm being very, very subtle with my bevels as well. Okay. Now save the file. So now I'm going to run a level 3 subdivision surface modifier on it, and that looks pretty clean. I'm going to save those changes as well, go back to front ortho, and now I want to go into look dev, and it's going to be all white. It's just a default look of a material. And what I want to do is I want to go in, I want to go to edit select face mode, select all the faces for that little inside circle, the one that's usually blue in the logo. And I'm going to select all of those faces because we're going to apply our material to it first. Notice I'm getting all the way down to where we created that fill piece that's going to be white. And I want to select all these faces here. Okay, I'm almost done. Now we're going to go into materials panel, and the way this works is that the top one is like it gets globally applied to everything. So we're going to make it, but we're just not going to apply it yet because we're still in edit mode and I have a selection. But now I'm going to go ahead and make the second shader that we want to use, and I'm just calling it material orange, material blue, and material white. Now I'm going to make the third one because while I'm in here I might as well just get all this done because it's very easy. We're not changing any other attribute other than color. And I go back to material blue and I assign it. Then I can go in there and tweak it and change it. So now I'm going to select a blue color that pretty similarly matches the color, nice color of blue, a nice hue of blue with a nice slightly desaturated color for this logo, as you can see. And because we had that selection and we hit assign, it assigned that shader to that selection. This is how people do multiple shaders on like one piece of geometry. It's pretty cool. But now because I don't want to duplicate it on the other side, I go to X-ray mode, go to orthographic side view. I select all of the vertices on one side and delete them. Now I'm going to select the edge mode where it's cut out. I'm going to move my 3D cursor to selected, just like we've done in other videos. That's going to shift the cursor right on the edge where we deleted those vertices, and essentially we cut this thing in half on the side. We filleted it, if you will. Then I'm going to go back to object mode, and I'm going to change my origin to the 3D cursor, or the origin of the geometry. Now I'm going to go in and use a mirror modifier and just modify it and mirror it on the other side. So then when we go back to look dev mode, we'll notice that we don't have to repaint this thing on every side. I do it on one side and it modifies it instantly on the other side. Okay, so now that that's done, oh, one other thing that's very important, I also want to shift my mirror modifier in the layer stack, the modifier stack, to come prior to or before the subdivision. Okay, so now I disabled it, subdivision in the viewport, so I can see all of my geometry pretty good. So now all I'm doing is going back in and just making the color changes to the other two shaders. I'm doing the orange. I just arbitrarily picked a nice hue of orange. And the white I'll do last. Taking a quick look at it. So I'm making my selections first. So I'm selecting that fill piece in the inside between the blue circle and then the orange piece of the logo. And I'm just kind of going in and selecting all of those faces. And like I said, keep in mind we only have to do one side because the other side is automatically mirroring everything we do on this side. And I'm going to go back to the shaders. I'm going to go down to the white one and hit assign. And now it is assigned specifically that area, the white shader. And we can go back in here and we can re-enable subdivision surface for the viewport. So now we can see the logo. Go back to front ortho, save my file. And let's look at this thing in cycles and see what it looks like. Bam, there you go. We're done. Nice job, guys. You've created a Blender logo.